tell me about some of your friends in high school and about your boyfriend.
Oh, well, I only had one boyfriend in high school, that's all. And that was only one date. And then for how many years? 6 years, 7 years, maybe more. Never met him until my folks moved to De Pere and happened to move right next door to his sister's place.
What was his name?
They called him Heinie. His name was Henry Finlauer. That was his name. And I was at home at the time.
This was many years later then.
Yeah, oh yeah, sure. I was 19 or 20.
Mm-hmm.
That was quite a few years later. And then I was washing and hanging up clothes, and he was at his sister's, and he said to her, "I know who she is." So
well, how did you meet him?
well, I met him. It was just an accident. Mrs. Clark's niece was visiting her, and she had a date with a little bit of a red-headed guy, and he was a cousin of the dark guy's.
The dark guy was Heinie?
Heinie, yeah. And so it was that girl that fixed it all up. I wasn't that interested.
But you double dated then?
Double dated that one night, and that was it.
Did you go to a movie?
I guess so. I don't remember too much about it, but something like that.
You said he was, would you describe him?
Tall, dark, very dark,
Uh-huh.
black hair.
And you said not too bad looking.
No, he's good looking.
Okay, but before you, okay, that was your first date with him, but then you told me about a barn dance.
Oh, yeah, well, they found out about the barn dance. I didn't know that anybody was coming.
But the barn dance was out in the town of Rockland at your
our farm.
At your farm.
It must have been could have been in the paper, I don't know.
And your mom and dad hired a band? Or
Yeah.
had some people there?
Yeah, it was just a few violins or something, I don't remember just what, but, and they came out to that.
That was after your date?
Oh, yeah, well, I was surprised to see Reddy and that they were there. Well, I don't think they stayed very long.
But then, well, this is getting ahead of the story, but then why don't you just go ahead and tell what happened to Heinie?
Oh, well, yes, after we moved, my folks moved to De Pere, of course, and he saw me, well, then I don't remember exactly. That's so long ago, how can I remember all that stuff?
Well, you said that he got sick.
Oh, well, yes, but it was a couple of years before he really got bad. And he was working in a brickyard, and it was heavy work. And so then he went into grocery store business, he and his sisters. And, well, it was just...
And you said he had kidney disease.
Kidney infection, well, it was Bright's disease, I suppose, that's what they called it then.
Mm-hmm.
And old Doc Lindfest, he was going to operate on him on a Monday morning, and his sister and I went down to visit him on Sunday, and then he had a stroke during the night. He died.
And so he was like in his 20s, I suppose.
No, well, he was about 7 or 8 years older than I. So he was 26, 27, something like that.
So now to get back to the order of the story, after 2 years in high school, then you went into nurses training when you were about 16 and a half.
16 or 17, a little too young, I guess.
You said that normally they didn't take people until
at
they
age.
were.
But they wanted help, they needed help.
So now tell about some of your experiences in nurses training, the rubber shoes and sleeping on the
yes.
floor.
Got a perfect pair of shoes, I thought. They were perfect. Didn't make any noise. But did they ruin my feet? Clapping down on that tile. Oh, I got blisters. Oh, my feet were so sore that when I did get the flu, I was glad to lie down and keep off of them. Oh, my feet hurt. It was terrible. But we had 12-hour duty. If we were on night duty, we worked from 7 at night to 7 in the morning. And there was only one nurse on the floor. There were 3 floors, one nurse.
When you say one nurse, did you mean a student nurse?
Mm-hmm.
But didn't you have some other
Not
nurse
at night.
in charge?
If there was something special, there was somebody to call, but you did it yourself. And you had to see that everyone was ready for breakfast in the morning, had their wash water and all put away and everything before 7 o'clock. I used to get so tired, and we had a bell system, like a bell on the wall, you know, it was right. You could put a pillow on the tiled floor and go to sleep between bells. Now that's not fibbing, because really, you'd be so tired that you could wake up and go do what you had to do, come back. I couldn't do it now. Take me 2 hours to get up and go.
What about the flu epidemic of 1918?
Oh, that was bad.
When you were in nurses training?
You know, they were hauling them in and hauling them out.
People died that
Fast.
fast.
Yeah. It was just a constant in and out the building.
Mm.
It was bad.
Mostly,
Then we had to wear masks.
were they mostly babies and old people? Or?
Oh, no, there were young people too. And it didn't pick out any special person. Of course, older people would be gone too, and children. And I lost I thought she was one of my very best teachers. She had married and left and came back to the hospital when I was in training and died there. And asked me to take care of her little girl. She had her father was living, so I don't know.
Didn't she have a husband?
No.
Oh,
But
the
I
little
mean,
girl's
The
father.
child had the father, but no.
And this was Grace Fitzgerald.
Grace Fitzgerald Lynch. She married Lynch.
You said that she lived with your family while she
Well,
was...
she was teaching school, so she was a good friend.
So this was while you were going to grade school?
Mm-hmm. Mother used to have teachers too sometimes during school, after Dad quit the business of going bridge building.
Well, then in the middle of the flu epidemic, what happened to you?
Well, I got the flu, and then I went home for a rest. When I got home, everybody was sick at home. So I had Mother and Dad and Merle.
They all had the flu?
Yeah. I can't remember that Grandpa had it, but
when you
he
say
was quite old.
Grandpa, that's your grandpa?
My grandpa.
Grandpa Nat, your mother's
Yeah.
father.
And so they were all sick. Well, then I got better, of course, pretty quick. I had to take care of them. and then went back to the hospital after they were feeling better.
To work?
That was hard, yeah, because I can remember one little boy. They called it an empyema. They put a tube in the lung, and the pus would come out. And you'd have to keep, it was terrible, and the odor would just knock you for a loop. Oh, that was the only time I thought I was gonna faint. I don't think I ever fainted.
Mhm.
I had to get out. I just couldn't take it.
Mhm.
Well, your father had that too, an empire.
At that time?
No, not at that time, after that, when he had the
Oh.
accident. In the 20s.
Okay. That's right, we have to,
You know, we're a little ahead of our story.
yes. Oh.